Hey everybody, it's Adam with IHP and JC, the IHP staff, and we've got JC Unplugged, episode 13. Here we go. JC, I'm going to read you two questions that I think they kind of go together. Number one was, how do you handle a situation where you and your client don't see eye to eye? And question two is, how do you deal with an unmotivated client who just doesn't want to get to the gym? I think they kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
Well, let's tackle the first one because there's various scenarios. You don't see eye to eye on what? You don't see eye to eye on an approach to training. So for example, a woman wants to do this exercise because she's convinced that it'll tighten up her thighs, and you don't believe that that is the most effective exercise, and you're trying to explain the nutrition. She goes, yeah, but I want to do that. That's one thing of don't see eye to eye. Another one, don't see eye to eye, is I think I can get one day with you and do two on my own, and you're crazy because you don't even know how to do squats. It's a recipe for disaster. That's another one. And another one still would be what you're talking about. It's like you're trying to instill in them the importance of getting here on a regular basis, and they're like, So which one of the three would you like to handle?
Whose question was that?
All three of those. I have several different clients that are very specific with what they want,
Right.
or not consistent enough, or just simply we don't get along. That's also one of the
Okay, so let's deal with the first one. The first one, let's deal with either exercise or approach to exercise. I.e., I want you to stretch me, which would be one of the questions that's coming up. I want you to stretch me so this part of my body feels better. You're going, stretching is the worst thing you can do to the part of the body, but I want you to stretch me because my doctor said to do it. Okay, how do you deal with that, right? Or this exercise. If it's an exercise, fine. Do the exercise they want as long as it's not dangerous, and sandwich what you want for them to do, right, and what they want to do here. So if they want to do this exercise, they got to get to the reaching lunges, and they got to get to the lateral lunges, and they got to do the bridges that you want. So you mix them in a biplex or a triplex. So you're giving them what you want, what they want, but you're sandwiching between what they need. That's one approach. The other one is more like, I want you to stretch my hamstring, I want you to stretch my back, I want you to stretch my neck, and it's contraindicated. At that point in time, you have to be very, very diplomatic, but very forceful. I cannot do that because it's not what you need, and if you get hurt, I'm going to be responsible, and I can't do that. Just right there, you got to put your foot down very compassionately, very lovingly, but I will not do it for this reason, okay? It's not something that's an opinion. To me, it's a fact. I've seen it a million times, and professionally, it would be irresponsible of me to do that, okay? And then another one would be the I'm not motivated, or you don't get along. If you don't get along, you got to pass to somebody that has the same personality and just not be selfish. I know sometimes you need the money, most of the time you need the money, and you're going to, I want to like try to hold on to this person at 8 o'clock because it's that energy alone, settling for less than your worth and trying to force something that should not be forced is the reason that the relationship is like that. You got to let that go. And you got to let it go with peace. You got to let it go with love. You got to let it go with compassion and say, you know what? I think so-and-so would be an awesome fit for you because you guys have the same personality, and it would be great. I would be more than happy to make the introduction. Pass them off. Pass them off. Don't try to do that. Somebody will come into that session that's just the right fit for you. If they're not motivated, it's kind of like not getting along. You're motivated, they're not. How are you going to convince an alcoholic that doesn't accept he's an alcoholic because he's an alcoholic and should go to a 12-step program? You can't. So how do you do that? You can't do that. So if somebody's not motivated, same thing. Let them go. They're not ready for it. And fill your time, fill your space, okay, with someone that appreciates you and appreciates the process. You settling for less than your worth leads you to you being less than you're capable of being. That's a spiritual lesson. That has nothing to do with personal training and money. That's how it's dressed up, but it has nothing to do with that. You're settling for less than your worth. You're staying in a dysfunctional relationship knowing that it's dysfunctional. That's you. That has nothing to do with your client. Let the person go, make the introduction, see him off with compassion, love. I wish you the best, but not here. because I am about something different. So fill your hours up with people that you dig, that dig you, that dig the process, and have the courage to let it go.
A lot of lessons in that. All right. How do you feel about using long, slow distance training for endurance events? You know, logging a lot of mileage. I think in order to know what this
Yeah, I'm not for that. I'm not for that. Junk mileage, recovery mileage, I think that is insanity. That's insanity. You want to recover, take a nap. You want to recover, have a great meal. You want to recover, do some stress management. You want to recover, get a massage. That's recovery. 50 miles on the bike at 15 miles an hour instead of your normal 25 is not recovery. It is junk mileage that has nothing to do with improving performance, but rather has everything to do with impeding proper recovery. So my whole thing is pretty much tempo time. I'd rather do race time, less volume, race time, strength and conditioning, a lot of metabolic gas with the Versa climbers and non-impact kind of stuff, all right? And you reserve your long yardage or your long mileage to once a week where you actually do time trials. So lots of rest, time, race-like times, okay? And low volume and strength and conditioning. That's my big approach. And people who have given that a chance, all of them have PR. All of them. And you know this, the best success you're going to have is with injured athletes that can't do what they shouldn't have done to begin with, but they were doing. So they were doing something they should have never done, got injured because of overuse, and it could come through a variety of things. It could be tendon, ligament, nerve, back, radiating, you name it, spurs, everything. It all came because of improper training. They're injured, now they can't train, so they come to you. And so now you bring them up slowly. They start to feel better. In comes the first race, wow, they PR, it's incredible. And then that old thing starts creeping back into their mind. If I'm doing so good with such little, only imagine what I would do if I would do this much again, and they go back into it. Because for whatever reason, that little devil comes and gets it, okay? Every single person that's been on a reduced volume program, has PR without exception, not one exception, not one. So I'm not a believer in long duration stuff at sub-race speeds, what they call the recovery volume. I hate that. I don't think it doesn't equate in physiology. So I'm not a big believer in it.
I have a question to add on to that. What would you do to taper then? So say you have an endurance athlete, right? You have the terminology tapering, right? So what would you do then, I guess, for the protocol if you don't do the low mileage, right? The low mileage.
No, you don't do the high mileage.
The high mileage, right? At the low pace. Okay, then what do you do for tapering per se?
Because, that's a good question. What do you do for tapering? Well, with the traditional, let's say marathon running, all right, when you do your 20-21 mile run before your marathon, you normally do that about 3 weeks out. So you have this enormous tapering, okay? And all the research by Dr. William Fry on overreaching talks about 2 weeks. You overreach and then you taper for 2 weeks. Our tapering is about 10 days. Why? We don't have to taper long times because we don't have the abuse of the body that requires the long times to recover. So our tapering with our fighters, our tapering with our marathon people, like half triathlons, are only 10 days. Because they don't run 20 miles for a marathon, they run 10. So you don't need 3 weeks to recover from 10. You need about 10 days to recover from 10 because before the 10 came 500 reps of metabolic protocols for the legs with the pre-fatigue. You don't need to recover 3 weeks from that. We know for a fact that you can do that for 1 week repeatedly for about 4 weeks before you start really banging your body to the point where like, we only do that for 1 week. So 10 days is plenty to recover from 10 miles, which people do every 3 days at that level anyways. And it's plenty to recover from 500 reps for the legs, 6 legs of leg planks. So there's another great thing. You don't need that much tapering, which means you can get more training in, which means you don't have to start your training as soon because your training goes all the way up, almost 2 weeks beyond what the normal training goes. And when you taper, it's not 3 weeks. 3 weeks, you can miss a taper in 3 weeks. A lot of things can happen in 3 weeks. 10 days, you've got that titrated very, very tight, and you can predict it. Very good. Cool?
All right. Maybe you can show us some things up on the board here, but what are your thoughts and opinions about implementing a hybrid strength training program versus an all-functional strength training program, which you have termed guerrilla strength training?
Yeah. I mean, for the longest time, the biggest error that we found is people thinking that you can't periodize functional training. And Griff will tell you, because the way Griff came into IHP, he was a subject to the study for fit moves that we did 15 years ago. And it was 6 weeks, and we periodized within a group setting. We periodized not only the time, but we periodized the tempo, we periodized the intensity. So it's 2 weeks of conditioning, 2 weeks of strength, and 2 weeks of power. And the power endurance was there by virtue of the circuit modality. And he'll tell you everybody blew up, and it was phenomenal, it was great. Okay, so all you have to do is use the 3 tweaks and make a strength and conditioning, functional training exercise, a strength exercise. So normally we have biplexes, we have triplexes, and we have quadplexes that we can use, all right, depending on how much. So here is your traditional. So this could be legs, chest, or back, or whatever. And then this is functional training for other parts of the body. The rule number 1 in hybrid training, the way we do it, is when we're focusing on one body part here, all this functional stuff stays away from that body part. So you can do bodybuilding for the legs one day, and you functionally train every other body part. You don't mess with the legs, you don't mess with the hips, the back, nothing. The day you're doing chest and shoulders, you don't mess with the front pushing, everything is back and legs. If you're doing back training, you leave the back alone, and everything is pushing and lower body. All right, so let's say this is a squat, barbell squat. You're going to use such a weight that you're about the 5 rep range. Here's your strength. And let's say this is the stability ball push-up. This is your functional strength. All right, this is a hybrid model. But if I go pure functional strength, all I got to do is find a leg exercise that gets very difficult at 5. All right? What can I do to the chest that makes it functional but takes it to a 5 rep range, 4 to 6, whatever it is, even 3s. Okay, 1 arm push-up. And I'll tweak that. Hand on a ball, elevate the feet, put a vest on, whatever. Okay? So here, if I can get 5 and 5, I'll put a vest on. I'll elevate the feet, and boom, here we start again. 10 reps, 10 reps. So now it's a triplex, but it's not a hybrid triplex, it's pure functional. So let's say this is a back. Lat pull down would be your traditional. And this is, again, a 1-leg anterior reach. This is a stability ball push-up. And this is a cable rotation. Horizontal, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, right? So we're concentrating on back, unloading the leg, unloading the chest, and getting a rotation in. Beautiful. What can I do with this to make it like a 5 rep? Okay, easy. I can put a weight and go up. I can do V-ups. I can do inverse pyramid pull-ups where I go here, 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 use time under tension, and just absolutely wipe on that for 5 reps. I can use handles, I can use the clamps, I can use the lockdowns, I can use ropes, I can use gis, and I can do anything to take this down to a 5 rep. This, my friend, is a whole different strength than this bodybuilding stuff. This bodybuilding is strong, no doubt about it. But this kind of strength, especially for athletes that are involved in contact, whoo, it is a different animal. The nice thing is that you need a little bit of knowledge, very little equipment. Very little. You don't need thousands of dollars of machines. You don't need barbells and a ton of weight and racks and special instructions and stuff like that. You do need instructions for a 1-arm push-up. You do need instructions here. You do need instructions there. But the instructions are minimal compared to deadlifting and high pulls and cleans and snatches and all that stuff that's really, really skill intensive,
And also on these traditional exercises, you're working more, if you want to use isolation as a term, and then when you go to these hard functional exercises, your integration of a lot of multiple muscle systems.
The integration of muscle system goes up.
Exactly.
Goes up, definitely. This 1-arm push-up, or you can go single band cable press.
Right.
It doesn't take much to bury a 200-pound guy. Some 200-pound guys can give you one-arm push-ups, but not too many can get 100 kilos on a cable or 80 kilos on a cable and say, all right, go press it. Stand here and press it 5 times. We've seen them. They're all over the place. But if they can stabilize, 60%, 50% of their body weight, because they're going to cheat it. If they're upright, they're only going to handle about 40% of their body weight. But we let them get this and this athletic thing, and so they can cheat it. So be at 60, that would be 120 pounds. If you put 120 pounds, not on a pulley where you reduce to 120, but a real 120 going this way, I would have to fight with it like a gorilla just to stabilize this. Do you know the amount of strength here and then be able to do that? You clinch with somebody, or you push a car, or you meet at the 50-yard line, clubbing somebody at the line. Whew, it's a different animal, man. So this is huge.
And as a side note, that standing one-arm cable press is a study you did with Dr. Stu McGill.
Right. That's how we know that study with Stu McGill that happened about 12 years ago. That's how we know the percentages of body weight and EMG stuff from the chest and the core.
Okay, let's go on. We'll go 2 more questions here. Thoughts and opinions about spinal flexibility regarding back rehab.
Spinal flexibility. Yeah, everybody, including, we had a client today here talk about, oh, we're doing yoga. And this guy is recovering from a back surgery and getting shots. Here he is with cortisone epidurals, and he's doing yoga. The worst thing you can do for a lower back. The worst thing you can do for a lower back. I am not a big yoga fan for rehab. I'm not a big yoga fan for much, unless you like yoga. If you like yoga, beautiful. You want to calm down, and you want to use the philosophy of yoga to calm you down, great. But to sell yoga for strength, and to sell yoga for core stability, to sell yoga for conditioning and all that stuff, to me is preposterous. I can love yoga for what it is, but not like yoga for what it's not. Okay? Electricity, hates water. Okay? If you want to put a fire out, water is a good thing, but not if you want to calm electricity down or short, you don't want to put water on it, right? So it's the same thing. You don't stretch a bad lower back. Because when you stretch a bad lower back, you're affecting a lot of ligaments, a lot of stuff. And the problems with lower back is never a flexibility issue. It is a lack of sequencing and lack of stability, which is rigidity, which is the opposite of what yoga teaches. So, folks, I love yogis, and it's all good. You can wear your Birkenstock sandals all you want and go, and everything. I love it. But stop turning people into pretzels, especially stretching their lower back and thinking you're doing them a favor, because you are not. Stu McGill's latest research will show you stretching an injured back or stretching a delicate back is the worst thing you can do. It is not what a back does. A spine works on rigidity. It transfers forces. It picks up your kid. It gets into positions through rigidity. Even if it flexes, to get a box to pick, and you're going to extend it, the spine doesn't extend. It flexes, locks into place. Then the hips move the baby. The hips lift the sofa. The hips do the stuff. In a wrestler that has to get down here, you'll see them flex their spine. But then they stabilize this. They make this rigid in a position that allows them to get into position, whether it's going after towels in the dryer or picking up an opponent. Okay? You get into position, then you make the spine rigid, then you move about the hips. You don't do this, okay, which is what yoga does, all right? So, enough of that.
You're a supporter of it because Kayla's registered as
My daughter is yoga certified, and she's going to be finishing her 5,000 hours of yoga certification in Costa Rica. I love it for her. Do it. She provides peace. Great. I love water, but I don't throw it on an electrical circuit. Okay? So you just have to worry about the application. You can't become a fanatic of water because it's 72% of the human body and it's what the universe runs on, and then throw it on electricity and think it's a good idea. It's not a good idea, as good as water is. So yoga's awesome. Leave the back alone.
You okay?
Yeah.
One time. Usa.
No, I can't go to yoga. It just upsets me. Yoga irritates the shit out of me.
Take a deep breath. All right, you ready? All right. This is a quick statement. 5 to 6 meals a day versus modified fasting.
Cool. It all depends on what we want to do. We have a lot of things confused. If you want optimal performance, 5 meals a day. If you want longevity, the least amount of meals possible. Yeah, believe it or not, I said it. Okay? And the research is there. The only lifelong proven approach to extending life in just about every organism that has ever been studied is food deprivation. Okay? It's called modified fasting. So if you look at the Dr. Mercola and all the anti-aging gurus, all right, you will see reduction in calories and even skipping meals throughout the day. There goes breakfast for all you fanatics, you know. Skipping meals across the day and only eating when you're hungry. It doesn't matter if you don't eat the entire day and just eat at night. The thing is, you can't gorge at night. Okay, so you just eat until you're full and then you're done. Restricted calorie intake into the point of about 40% of your needs, which means you're only running on 60%. I would need about 1,400 to 12,000 calories, which for me is starving. All right, we know it extends life. It extends life in every animal we've ever studied. So, if you want performance, if you're training 3 times a day, 2 times a day, you got to eat 5 times a day. If you want to fake your metabolism so it becomes inefficient, remember, the object of this metabolism, prior to Men's Health, Glamour, Self, and all the other abs, booty, and boobs media, is to survive. This is what this body wants to do, survive. That's why it stores fat. That's why it stores fat where it wants to store it, not where you like it. Right? And that's why it likes to slow down the metabolism, so if you were in a jungle or in a desert situation, you wouldn't have to feed it every 5 days. When you start feeding it every 5 days, you start revving it up, so it becomes inefficient. When it becomes inefficient, it starts to go through fuels faster, which is what you want if you're a bodybuilder and you're caught up on modern needs, which is to look shredded and all that stuff. That's fantastic. You're training 2 times a day. That's not what this body does. This body hunts and then sleeps. And the less it does, the better. That's what this body does. What you want to do with your marathon and tennis and triathloning and all that, that's a different and very alienated need to what this body wants. So if you're looking at what this body wants, it wants the minimal amount of food it can run on. That's what it wants. And it wants you to utilize the minimal amount of energy that you need to capture the food and acquire the food that it needs. That's all it does. It doesn't want to go to Disney World, doesn't want to win tennis tournaments, doesn't want to do any of that, okay? So if you want to extend your life, eat minimal as possible, okay? That means do minimal as possible. If you want performance, then you got to go the 5 times a day, because you always have fuel, and on and on and on. So it all depends. The biggest move in life extension is reduce calorie intake. The biggest move in the performance world is increased frequency and nutrient density. So take your pick.
Wow.
I told you guys there would be something new in there.
You were in fuego today. All right, guys, see you in a couple weeks for the next episode of JC Unplugged. Take care.
See you soon.